gathering here today, I would like to call upon Sahib to bless our gathering with a few verses from the Holy Quran.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أوحينا إليك كما أوحينا إلى نوح والنبيين من بعده وأوحينا إلى إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق ويعقوب والأسباط وعيسى وأيوب ويونس وهارون وسليمان وآتينا داود زبورا ورسلا قد قصصناهم عليك من قبل ورسلا لم نقصصهم عليك وكلم الله موسى تكليما رسلا مبشرين ومنذرين لئلا يكون للناس على الله حجة بعد الرسل وكان الله عزيزا حكيما لكن الله يشهد بما أنزل إليك أنزله بعلمه والملائكة يشهدون وكفى بالله شهيدا.
Jazakallah Imam Sahib. May Allah reward you with a blessed reward for the beautiful rendering of the verses of the Holy Quran. To inform us what Imam Sahib has inserted, we call upon Aziz Sahib to read us the English translation, please.
Surely, we have seen revelation to thee as we seen revelation to Noah and the prophets after him. And we seen revelation to Abraham and Ishmael and Isaac and Jacob and his children and to Jesus and to John and Jonah and Ahmed and Solomon. And we gave David a book. And we've seen some messengers whom we have already mentioned to these, and some messengers whom we have not mentioned to thee. And to Moses, Allah spoke at great length, messengers, bearers of glad tidings, and warners, so that people may have no plea against Allah after the coming of the messengers. And Allah is mighty, wise. But Allah bears witness by means of the revelation which He has sent down to thee, that He has not sent it down, He has sent it down full of His knowledge. And the angels also bear witness, and sufficient is Allah as a witness. So,
May Allah bless you with the best reward, Aziz Sahib. I greet you once more with the international salutation of peace. May the peace and blessings of God be upon all of you. And on behalf of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat, I extend a welcome, I would like to call on our national president, Mr. Sur Ahmad Zahid, to formally welcome everyone and to lead us in a short prayer.
Respected Chairman, respected representative from different religions, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. I'm very happy to see all of you here because today is a blessed day in the sense that we are gathered from different religions here, from different backgrounds, so that we can talk about our leaders, our guides, our prophets, those they came to lead us, to guide us time to time. The verse which I have recited in front of you is giving us a universal message that God the Almighty sent this type of people in everywhere. Just few names are mentioned because they were very close to the Arabs. And those prophets, they were Israelites. But that does not mean that the guides or the teachers, those who came to lead their nations, they were only limited to the Arabs or they were only limited to the Israelites. No. God has sent the guides in every nation, in every tribe. But unfortunately, in those days, there was no way to write their teachings. So we don't have a written record, except those people, those they were well-to-do, and they were able to preserve their teachings. That will come to us. And that one we always talk about, whether it is the scripture from the Hindu community, whether it is a scripture from the Christian community, whether it is from the Jewish community, whether it is from the Muslim community, or Confucianism, or Taoism, whatever it is, there are many. So Holy Quran recognized all of them. Those they came to lead us, to guide us. And the main issue of their coming was to unite the people. And that is the prime subject of the Holy Quran also. That not only the Muslims should unite, but the other people should also come close to each other. And that is possible if we sit down together and discuss the issue. That's why from past century, Ahmadiyya Muslim community started this type of things. Although we started very late here. This is the second year we are doing this. But in different countries, especially it started from India from 1920s, when there was an issue of conflict of the different religions. Then our second successor, Mr. Bashiruddin Mahmood, he realized that why not we talk the goodness of every religion? Why don't we talk the principal people, those they came and they started the religion? If they have that type of teaching which can unite the people, which can bring the peace among the people, why don't we talk that? So that people, though they are misguided from other people, should know that no, we have a common thing. As a different religion, we have a common thing. And that is the message of the Quran. That God the Almighty sent a revelation to people, though they are mentioned in the Quran or they are not mentioned in the Quran. So it means there is a common message. And that common message, if we hold it, despite we have our own interpretation in our teachings and we have our own practices, but still there are common things which can bring us close and we can stay with each other with respect, with harmony. And the way that time is going on, there are a lot of conflicts in the world. Either they are based on the religion or they are not religion issues, they are political issues, but they are hiding behind the religion. And this type of things can only go down if we are ready to learn from each other, that does not mean that I am saying that we should convert each other. No, that is not the issue. The issue is not for the conversion. The issue is to let's understand each other. Every religion have a truth. Why don't we find those things? And if we focus on that, then we have more understanding about each other. And then we can come close to each other. And that is the prime issue of this time in the whole world, also in South Africa too. That the religious people should come close to each other so that they can find the common things and stay with the peace and harmony. And we are trying to just do a little, but this door is open for everybody. It's not only Ahmadiyya community will do, everybody should have to do this. And if we are in this line, if we understand this, that we come close to each other and learn from each other, then we will be creating a very beautiful world, which have a harmony, which have love for everybody. So this is the thing, and I pray that God the Almighty bless all this little effort and all those people, those they have come to share whatever they have. God also bless them. Their effort can make this our event successful. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the introductory words, Rabbi Sahib, our National President, Mr. Mansoor Ahmed Zahid. We have quite a lengthy program, but before there much to do, we will then call upon Mrs. Newton. She will be our first speaker.
Thank you. I think mostly thank you for the Ahmadiyya community to host us. It's always really lovely to come here and be welcomed. So thank you very much. So we've been sort of asked to share about the teachings of love, peace and justice based on the founders of the respective faith. And I thought these three words were quite interesting because they are very linked, although love and peace seem, for me, softer energies, and justice is a more stronger energy, but I think they're very much linked. The founder of the organization, so not really a religion, but an organization, Brahma Baba, he established the organization at the age of 60. That's when everyone was retiring. He decided to start things up based on a few premonitions and visions that he had. And one of the core aspects, and I think this is within every single faith, love is the key aspect of it. But I want to start from the place of peace. One of the understandings based on the teachings of the organization is this idea that we are spiritual beings living in a physical world. And so all the teachings are really based on how do we return to the awareness of the self as a spiritual being, and how do I come back to those core qualities, love being one of them. And one of the main principles is that peace is the original nature of the soul. It's innate, it's in each one of us. Whether we express it or not is a different story. But we all hold peace in that capacity within ourselves. And so Brahma Baba, through the teachings, one of the practices that we have is meditation, which is a way of quieting the self into centering in the awareness that I am a peaceful soul, I am a peaceful being. So this becomes sort of the foundation of the practice and the way we live our lives, or endeavor to live our lives. But I was thinking of why peace is such an important aspect, and usually the absence of violence, we look at as peace. That when I hold peace within my being, then automatically that will be expressed in others, in my interactions, in whatever it is that I'm doing. And out of that sense of peace, then there's a capacity to emerge love. If I'm disturbed internally, it's a bit difficult to just allow that pure essence of love to be expressed. And so always, every single day when we do have our readings and our study, which is a big part of our practice, we're reminded on a daily basis. We're a being of peace, we're a soul, and love is the expression. And every single day, and it's shared. Why is it every day? Because we forget. And so it has to be drilled into our consciousness. But I was thinking about how within all faiths and all founders and religious leaders, the way they taught was through living it. Not just talking about it, but through living it. And it was through observing how they lived their lives that we learn. I was thinking of when I was growing up, I never really worked in the kitchen. I didn't like the kitchen. But I would watch my mom prepare food, and subconsciously I was taking it in. And so when I left home and moved to get I had to go. Automatically it started to emerge within the sound because I would observe her on a daily basis just to see what she's doing. And so the examples that we have in front of us play a big role in influencing how we live our lives and how we express ourselves. But just sort of coming back to these three words of peace, love, and justice. And I want to just talk a little bit about this word justice. And when I think of justice, the word or the association that resonates strongly is the idea of equality, of fairness, of no preference of higher and lower. And when we think of the world that we live in, quite a lot of the conflicts and the violence and all the negativity is based on difference that we see. And then we talk about indifference, in diversity there's unity as well. So how do we marry these kinds of opposites or polarities? And one of the key teachings of the organization and what Rama lived was this idea of religion and all the other things. And whether we are aware of it or not, it does create some judgment because we've been grown up with certain conditioning beliefs, and to sort of wade through all of that doesn't happen as easily as we'd like to, because from the time we were little, we conditioned. And so this practice of drishti is just about going beyond all the physical parameters that creates separation and differences, and just focusing on the innate qualities of love and peace that is within each one. So can I ask you to maybe just turn next to the person next to you? Turn to the person next to you. And just hold an awareness that I'm a soul and I'm looking at another being as a soul with love and with peace. So can I ask you to do that? And maybe I'll just share a few words to help guide the process. So just face the one next to you. Don't make them feel uncomfortable. So in my mind, I just create the awareness that I'm a pure being of spiritual energy, and I hold peace, and I hold love within my heart. And as I look at the person next to me, I just see these qualities in them as well. And I just share this pure vision of my being with my brother or my sister. And I receive the pure vision that they have, just of love and peace. And just hold it for a moment. Right, thank you. And so Brahma Baba through his living showed us how to live in soul consciousness. And this was the key practice of always reminding us, go past the physicality of things and look to the heart of everything. And if you think about it, when you really get to know someone, you find them quite lovely people. But when you come with your judgments and all of that, then it becomes a bit difficult. But I can only do that. How's my time? Okay. I can only do that when there's a deep sense of security within the self. One of the things that Brahma Baba foresee, or I guess in context to the times he was living in, and this being Women's Month, one of the interesting things about the organization, the administration is by women throughout the world. I think it's one of the only organizations, but his whole reasoning behind it was he felt the feminine energy of love and nurture, compassion, mercy needed to become more prevalent in the world, because the masculine energies, I'm not talking men and female, I'm talking energies of power and strength was dominant, and so to bring about balance. And so initially the group that came to learn and study with Brahma were young girls and young women, and so he helped them to break the barriers of I'm female, I'm young, I'm this, I'm that, this is expected of me. And he challenged the norms. So it created a lot of upheaval within the community, but he felt very strongly that if we want to create a shift, then yes, there will be some resistance. But ultimately, when there's a pure intention, that will manifest. Sometimes you just have to be patient. And we see how that vision held so much power on some level or the other. And so sometimes in our quest to create a world that I think we all hold within our hearts, we sometimes fearful a little bit. And so we shy away, we step back because of what might happen. But then do we have the courage and the conviction to face certain adversities in that moment for the sake of something greater? And if you look at all of the religious leaders, they had to go through difficulty, in every single one of them. But it's that showed a conviction within themselves. And so we speak about them, we praise them, we follow them, and then also to integrate the principles by which they live their lives. I think that's the way that we can actually honor all of these amazing individuals who brought us to where we are. So I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sister Nita. And thank you for the whole exercise of compassion and wisdom. Our next speaker will be Swami Vidyanandi Sahib, who will address us.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm very happy to be here again with the Ahmadiyya community, and I thank you very much for inviting me on this very auspicious day where we're going to be discussing the life and teachings of our various religious leaders. In terms of the topic, and when I was asked to come and speak, I was a bit fearful. I didn't know whether they were going to ask me about the Hinduism or about our Guru lineage. And with relief, I was told it's the Guru lineage because they talk about Hinduism and founders and so on. That was a big, huge subject. So I'm glad that someone else has given that challenge. And that was not me. So I was requested to speak on Swami Shivananda, who is the founder of the Divine Life Society, of which our ashram is a branch. And Sister Nita put it very beautifully and importantly, is that it's the example really that is the teaching. And I know in Islam that's also very important, the hadith. is studied as much as I think as the Quran, because the life of the Prophet actually highlights or is the example of what the Quran is trying to tell us. So we're fortunate if we actually have historical reference of our leaders. So Shivananda was born in 1887, died in 1963, founded the Divine Love Society. And I want to share a little bit about his life because it illustrates maybe the topic of love, peace, and justice. Although similar with Sister justice was not something on Swami Shivananda's agenda, but because of his vision, there was no injustice. Can we put it like that? Yeah. Love and peace, of course, was very much there, because with any spiritual master that will be there naturally. But how to have this love and how to have this peace and how to be with people so that we don't treat them in any way that should harm them, which of course is the principle of ahimsa, non-violence. That was already shown in his young life as a young boy. He loved to serve people. And there was a particular incident which kind of highlights an important aspect. He was also into sports, and he wanted to learn Indian fencing, which is with a long stick. And he came from the Brahmin community. The Brahmin, you may know, Hinduism, the Brahmins are considered the upper class. And this was a low caste, or maybe an outcast person. So he wanted to learn fencing. For him it was not a problem, but for his parents and other of his community it was a big problem. So he was actually told that this was not appropriate for a Brahmin boy to learn from a low caste person. And so he reflected upon this because he could not initially understand this, but he still couldn't. And he had a vision in which he saw that God who he worshipped every day with his father, he used to worship God, he suddenly saw God in the heart of the outcast teacher. And he says from that day on, caste distinction died. And the caste distinction died because he saw the divine in the other. So he actually went and prostrated to the teacher, gave him gifts. He had also some lessons. There's some video footage of him in his old age, still showing in the news. His whole life was one of seeing God in the other. This was an important part of how this love and peace manifested more and more in his heart. He became a doctor. Before he was a Swami, before he became a Swami, he was a doctor. His name was Swami Iyer. And he decided he must go to Malaysia, where he served the indentured laborers of India in the rubber plantations in Malaysia. And he never charged a poor person. Always free consultation, free medicine, and train fare or whatever they need to get home, food, anything. So one of his mottos was, never ever charge a poor person for your service. And for 10 years he lived in Malaysia and served the poor, of course also others. He became quite wealthy also, but he always served the poor. That was very important to him. And later on he said, it is through the service of the poor that was another way in which God came more manifest in my life. Serving God and the poor. And this was one of the core teachings of Swami Shivananda: serve, 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 serve. There's a motto: serve, love, give, purify, meditate, realize. Serve is the first word. And he was particularly fond of people serving the sick and the poor. Number one, you can't expect anything back. So you learn to serve without seeking any reward and any gains for yourself. So it becomes a selfless service. But also to be with the sick and the poor is not actually an easy task. It sounds glorious, but it's not easy to be with that, not because they're bad people, but because of the circumstances that they're in. It's to many people almost repelling. So it becomes a way of purification, and to be able to see God in the sick and the poor was for him very, very important. In fact, once there's a small charitable hospital at the ashram, and one of the disciples was asked to look after an ailing monk who had soiled his bed. And the young disciple was reluctant and neglected And later on when Swami Shivananda came, he noticed it, he cleaned up the man and saw to him that he was well looked after. He didn't actually scold the disciple, he told him, you missed a great opportunity for serving God. What a pity. So it was a lesson. So it was the serving the poor and serving the sick that this vision, the divine vision, started manifesting more and more in his heart. Then, after having served for 10 years, he had a kind of divine dissatisfaction because the spirit of being a doctor was to serve and to relieve suffering. But if you're a doctor, you realize that you can never relieve suffering because the same patient comes back again and again and again. With different ailments of the same ailment, or they die also of the ailment that is great suffering, so it can never be completely removed. And he felt that the only way that human suffering can really ultimately be removed is through every person having an experience of God. It is not when we are having an experience of being one with God that we really overcome suffering. The body and the mind may still undergo some suffering, but the spirit actually doesn't. That was his vision. And so he decided, if I want others to know God, I must know God first. So he then became a monk and immersed himself in intense austerities. And this is also another aspect of his teaching, was that it's very important that we meditate, that we worship God, that we purify our body and mind through various religious practices. And here also he had a universal vision, like the Ahmadiyya also have. It's not necessary that one changes one's religion. If you're a Hindu, become a better Hindu. If you're a Muslim, become a better Muslim. If you're a Jew, become a better Jew. Whatever Christian, they want to be a better Christian. By implementing and following the various practices that are given to us, meditation, prayer, devotion, etc., etc. So that we begin more and more to experience God in our own hearts. So there was a long period in which he did these austerities, although they were always coupled with the service. He still served, especially the ailing monks that used to live in the area where he lived, which is in Rishikesh. Then, after some time, the ashram started, and he formed the Divine Life Society, which was mainly an organization in order to disseminate and deal with his voluminous writing. He wrote over 300 books on yoga, Vedanta, health, anything to do with spiritual matters, also translating and commenting on the source scriptures of yoga and Vedanta, which is the Upanishads, Brahma Sutras, Bhagavad Gita, and other yoga scriptures. So to do all that work, the organization had to start. It was really for that purpose that it started. But he also started having some disciples. There was an incident in the early 1950 where one disciple somehow went a little mad and decided to kill him. And in the evening, every evening there was a prayer service, and Swami Shivananda, because he had an ailing body, he used to sit in the back of the hall and sometimes reclined. And in those days there was only like an oil lamp, so dim light. And this disciple decided he was going to kill Swami Shivananda, must have been some misgivings. And he wanted to do this with an axe, so he got himself an axe. And the strange thing was that in winter, Swami Shivananda would come to the hall with a sort of turban around his head, but always take it off once he's in the prayer service, what we call satsang. But on that occasion, for some funny reason, he forgot to take it off, it remained on his head. So because it's dim light, the disciple had already worked out exactly how he's going to chop the head. But because the turban was there, he didn't strike properly, so the third attempt he still didn't manage. By that time, everybody realized what's going on and pinned the guy down. Don't hurt him! Don't hurt him! Of course, he was taken to the police, which there's a police station nearby. And the next day, Swami Shivananda came with flowers and garlands and gifts and said to him, I must have done something to disturb you. I'm very sorry. Do you want to give me some more blows? No, Swami. Then he worshipped him like a Hindu who worships God in the temple. He worshipped this man exactly like he was God, and garlanded him, initiated him, gave him a mantra. But the police said, I wanted him to take a charge, and he didn't want to do that. They said, well, we can't keep a man like this in our district. We have to send him away, so they sent him back home. And he encouraged him to write to me, to a problem note, something like that. And he said, that is when God came into my life. Became this man tried to kill me, is actually the day that God came into my life, which means he saw God in that which we call evil also. The person who's doing evil, even in that person who is doing evil, God is also there. It is very hidden, of course, it's very hidden. We're not saying God is doing the evil, but God is hidden also in the one who's doing evil. And that he was able to see. So therefore he also had an important teaching, bear insult, bear injury. This is the highest spiritual practice. Never mind meditation, never mind all the prayers we do. If we can bear insult and injury and remain peaceful and loving and kind towards the other person and still see the divine in that person, we are doing well in our spiritual life. We can see here, maybe in this example, one can see a little bit of the idea of justice. It is not a justice in which it is an eye for an eye, but it is a restoration really to divinity. The real justice is to move from evil to good to divinity. That should be a transformation. And in fact, that's why they call it correctional services. It's supposed to be a correction from not doing so good to doing good, and ultimately the ultimate correction is to be in attunement with the divine. So this is the vision that Swami Shivananda had. So the crux of the whole thing was to have an experience of God, or the divine, Allah, cosmic consciousness, or whatever we call it, that supreme, that is there everywhere. We have different names for it, different religions have different names for it, but to have the experience of that within oneself, and that God becomes a living reality to us, then love, peace, justice, any of the virtues that we hold dear will come naturally. That's what Sister Sinja was telling, and her Guru was also sharing. This is of course the common message. So we have the practices that lead to that, but we see that once we begin to be more in touch with the inner divinity, then these practices become natural expressions. What are natural to the saints and sages and prophets is practice for us. They don't have to practice these things, they are established in it because of their divine connection. So this was the important message of Swami Shivananda. Find God in yourself, serve, love, give, purify, meditate, realize. Be good, do good, be kind, be compassionate, bear insult, bear injury. Is the highest sadhana of spiritual practice. Thank you very much, and God bless us all in our journey.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Swami Vijayananda, for addressing us on Swami Sarvananda and sharing with us some words of wisdom. Continue now. This is like a change in the sequence of the program. Sister Rahma Khalili Madhavi Chaitanya needs to leave a bit early, so she has requested to be pushed up into the frame, and without any ado, we will call upon her to address us. Thank you.
Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatye Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. I'd like to thank the organization for organizing such a beautiful function today, especially in this more beautiful prayer of worship place. What I loved the most when I walked in, it said, "Leave your shoes behind." That was like, yes, wow, great. Because any place of worship should always be respected. So I am here to represent Hinduism, and we'll take it step by step. Don't have much time. Founder of Hinduism, as the Western world calls it Hinduism. Why I say Western world? Because in our so-called Hinduism, there is no such thing as Hinduism. So we belong to what is called Sanatan Dharam, which is a Vedantic culture. Sanatan Dharam refers to, it's a Sanskrit term, and it means eternal way of living life. What way? that way which will not hurt me, which will not hurt others as well. The dharmic, it's called the dharmic way of life. So these teachings have come from our scriptures, which is called the Vedas. The Vedas, up till today, there is no founder of the Vedas. The only authority which we've got is where God Himself, in various of our other later scriptures that was written, where He has mentioned that the Vedas have come from me. And going way back, since time memorial, the teaching of the Vedas have been going on. And what are these Vedas that I'm talking about, that we Hinduism follow? So these Vedas teach us that we need to live a way of life, again, which has love, peace, and, what Sanskrit topic is there? Equality to all. Meaning, let us start with love. So it tells us that we ourselves are of the nature of love. And when we realize this truth, then we can spread it also. I had mentioned this in my previous time when I had met everyone, and the only way we can give something is when we possess it. And as we've heard, Netaji had mentioned that we have it, but many it's not shown. So these Vedas, they tell us that we are of the nature of love. We are of the nature of quietness. And therefore, whatever gods have come in our Hinduism, we've seen that various, I would say it's called avatars, various incarnations have come, where God Himself has manifested as a normal human being in a house, and He had lived a life, a beautiful life, teaching others how to love, how to serve others. And I will take 2 examples. One is Lord Ram. So Lord Ram, when He took birth, it's not that He founded or He started preaching now peace or how to be as a brother, as a mother, as a son. That's not what He did not invent it. He only followed again what was in the Vedas. So therefore, when He went to school to learn history, geography, sports, he was also taught what is written in the Vedas. And as it was written that if you are a son, this is the way you should treat your parents, with utter respect. This is the way you should treat your friends, even if you become king one day, because he was a prince. So it was said, even if you become a king one day, but always treat your friends with equality. Your siblings that are there, always those are below you, always give them a lot of love, compassion. They will make mistakes, but it is for you, because you've got a better understanding, to forgive them, still embrace them. That was Lord Ram. Another reincarnation that came was Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna, when he came and he spread love. Completely he spread love. Why? Because he told the world that you are running after this person. You are running after that. You're getting caught up in the things that I have created. But you are leaving me behind. It's like you come and you give me, I'm giving an example. Let's say you give me a lovely bouquet of flowers. And I take the flower from you. And I continue to say, wow, this flower is so lovely. This rose is so nice. It's got such a nice fragrance. I go on for half an hour. What you will tell me? You'll say, hello, I'm the one that brought it. At least acknowledge me. I have given it to you. So Lord Krishna came to say that I am here to love you. God is here to love you. So I am here always for you. Because when you love me, you are loving nobody but your own self. Because I am in each and every being. And when you realize that, then you see that God in everyone else. So, just coming to the topic of, see, in our Vedic tradition, there's hundreds and thousands of, I would say, it's called seers, saints. These saints, these seers, what they have done, they have followed the Vedas accordingly. They have found that peace within, that love within, they found it. And they went out spreading it. And one such great seer we heard was from Swami Vidyananda, of Swami Shivananda. That is a lineage. In the Vedas it is believed a Guru Shishya Parampara, meaning teacher, student, like this knowledge was passed on. And like that, many of them walked this world, spread the knowledge of how to attain that quietness, that peace. Why? So when I'm in peace with myself, I can give peace to others. A person who is disturbed, it's impossible to give peace to somebody else. Totally impossible. We all know it. We experience. Well, I hope we don't experience it every day at home. But at least now and then we experience it, either from the husband, wife, children. We experience that. But if you are in peace with yourself, if you are true to your prayers, to your association with God, who is nothing but of the nature of love and peace, then what happens? Even if somebody comes and causes some disturbance, so you ask somebody to make you a cup of tea, your daughter or son. They've made it, but they didn't put the sugar in it. Instead of flinging the cup and saying, don't you know I take 2 sugars in my tea? You will quietly wake up and go and put it. Why? Because in your mind you have a better understanding. You are at peace with your mind. You are not a pressure cooker. What happens is we have become pressure cookers. Therefore, we boil not only in our home, but when we go out. Anybody else we meet. If little thing that triggers, somebody passes and by mistake, they just tap us. What do? How do we react? That alone tells us what is within us. So therefore, there are steps in which we should do it, and how? Again, association with God. Dear friends, that is the only way out in today's world. We cannot say, no, I don't believe in this. He is our only true friend. He is the only one who can help us. Whether it's this day in life, whether it was 100,000 years back, He alone is there for us. And with His grace, He will show us the path. He will bring such teachers to us, which will tell us, right, this is where my thinking is wrong, this is what I'm doing wrong, therefore my actions are also wrong, therefore at night when I go to sleep, my mind, I can't even sleep at night, my mind is not at peace. But when we follow these steps, then what happens? When we hear of these great saints, these seers that I'm speaking of, these saints that are there, even today there's hundreds of them in this world that are spreading this love and peace. And I promise you, when you go in their presence, whether it's Hinduism, whether it's Christianity, whether it's Muslims, they exist in each and every religion. And when you just go and be in their presence, they won't even talk, you yourself become quiet. And I'm sure many of you all seated here have experienced that. No matter when you're going to your great leaders, actually they are not just leaders, they are prophets themselves. Why? Because we've heard the example that Swami Vidyananda had mentioned, reminded me of one example. It must have been like about 30, 40 years back. There was a very great saint in Vrindavan. Very great saint. People took him to be God. But he never said he was God. But whatever blessings he would give the people, it would come true. So everybody used to come, but he always told them, hold on to God, hold on to God, not to me. What happened was, similar incident happened. A person came, again the place was full of all his devotees. The person was little not right, so he had a knife. So he hugged the saint and he stabbed the saint. You know what the saint did? He held him and he said, you please leave quietly through the back door. If you go to my left side on the back, there's a door there. You leave through that side. The moment these devotees are going to see what you have done, they're going to kill you. They won't leave you. And he let that person go. After that person left, for some time he waited. Then he pulled the knife out and they also blood everywhere. And he said, leave him. This is what these saints are. This is how great they are. And when you see that in life, you think, wow, I feel, I should also be like that. Whether it's my neighbor dog that's coming into my yard and missing. Doesn't matter, I will forgive. I won't. And the last thing is equality. You know what I don't want somebody to come now and start screaming at me. I don't want somebody to come and shout at me or use terrible words at me or come and hit me. So what I don't want, I should also feel that I should give back to the others. And when we have that sense of love, that sense of peaceful quietness, that we will never treat another human being, or I would say being even, whether it's an ant, whether it's any animal, we will never treat them any different, meaning I will not hurt them. I will not do anything to hurt them, whether it is through my actions, and biggest way we keep hurting people is through our speech. I feel that is the biggest way we all have been hurting people. And that's what creates the pressure in the pressure cooker. When the pressure cooker is cool and calm, it's very nice. But when it's boiling, then you also fry it. First time if you're using it, my God, this thing should not come up and come in my hand. When it comes up, and let's say the whole lid comes out, it'll cause some damage. So that's exactly what we don't want to lead that life. So the first thing, again coming back to the Vedas, Hinduism is we start with ourselves. We have to start, there's no escaping. We cannot put the blame on anybody else. Start with ourselves. But with the help of God. Again, without Him, we are nothing, we are nobody. His grace, we have to acknowledge that it's because of Him I'm even able to stand here today. Little acknowledgements we have to do in life. That is it. Acknowledge that because of Him, I parked the car already. Because of Him, I put it right. Because of Him, I am standing here, talking, able to eat. Okay, maybe one hand is in problems, headache comes now and then, but still, I'm still better off than many other people that I have seen. That acknowledgement should be there, friends. And with His grace, again, all this will definitely come. Once it's in me, I spread it. I don't have to go and do anything when I go out. Just my presence will bring this love, peace to everybody. So I thank you once again for inviting me, and thank you so much for putting me up. Apologies to the other speakers. I've just got another program today. It's actually a special Gita week because on the Lord Krishna, as I mentioned, so his birthday is on Friday. So it's a very big celebration, and a few days before that we have a program. So for that reason, I requested that. Thank you so much, and sorry for any inconvenience caused. Thank you.
Okay, but before you leave, maybe just present your gift from our community.
Thank you.
Camera, please.
Thank you.
Any other person want to go?
Not yet. No. She was the only request for very good. The others are okay.
Ask any question.
Yeah, see, for only 5 minutes. We have decided for every second or third speech we will allow about 5 minutes. Any comment or question?
Particular person.
To do one of these speakers.
Any question or comment? Yes. Yes, please. Yes.
The lady has mentioned if you have a neighbor that disturbs you every time, which means you should tolerate all this nonsense and allow him to get away with what he's doing. If you don't put your foot down, he's going to take advantage of your goodness. Pretty short here, I would like you to answer on that.
Here is a bit difficult exercise. But I hope the goodness always have a reward. So if people misbehave with you, you only increase your love with them. Today or tomorrow they will understand it. Maybe one man will be still stubborn, and that is exception. But generally, if we see people they are doing wrong with us and we just tolerate with them, they understand today or tomorrow. Because the goodness will prevail.
Thank you, Murali-san. Reminds me of your car parking lot. Anyone else? It's just one more question. That's all. Comment?
Yes.
Everyone?
I think the speaker that is here now mentioning about beings, for example, beings. And I would love to know from her if the plant life are regarded also as beings, because she was using animal life, human life, and plant life. It also part of beings. Which, I don't know.
I think that maybe we can allow her next year to come. You ask this question because it's a particular religion belief and we cannot interpret. So she has to given us a better interpretation. What is being? So we have to skip your question.
Okay, thank you. We will continue now with our main program. Our next speaker is from the Jewish community, and we would like to call upon Rabbi Tamara Shagas to address us.
If you don't mind, I would like to share with you some of the sources that I will be relating to. I have a very strong accent, so my English might not be as clear as other speakers, so I thought it would be easier if you would have copies of the text. Salam alaikum. May peace be with you. Shalom aleichem. So, while you are getting the sheets that I prepared for you, let me apologize, first of all, because I was late. I had a service at one of our cemeteries, so I couldn't be when you were all coming in and greet all of the speakers and some of the members of the community. I appreciate the invitation very much, and I would like to let you know also, I was born in Argentina, and I have been living in Israel for 15 years. I'm in Cape Town for a very short period of 3 months, serving in the progressive Jewish community in Cape Town, while one of our rabbis is abroad. So I'm a visitor not only to your community today, but also to your beautiful city, which I'm enjoying very much, and I'm also learning a lot about it. The second thing that I wanted to make sure I would say as an opening of my remarks is that Judaism is not a religion of love. You will not hear me speak as other speakers did in terms of love as a feeling. In Judaism, love is very connected to specific actions. Last week in the Torah, in the Bible, we read Shema Israel, Adonai Elohim, Adonai Echad. O Israel, the Lord is Adonai, the Lord is one. And after that sentence, which is I would say the heart of Jewish prayers in many ways, we have what we call ve'ahavta, you will love. And after we say you will love Adonai, your God, there's a list of actions that need to be taken. It's not just about our feelings, but what we will do in the world, both towards the eternal and also among ourselves, within the Jewish community and in the broader community too. So one of the things that we say is, for example, you have to love your neighbor as you love yourself, but that is also action. Loving your neighbor means to be fair, to be merciful, to be righteous. And it's not about love and caring. The heart in Jewish tradition, when the sages would speak about the heart, it's because they thought that the mind was in the heart. It was a different way of understanding. Judaism became a very westernized religion, but its sources are not Western. And I think that one of the big challenges in Jewish tradition is to go back to the sources in terms of not leaving Judaism just as something that happens in our minds, what we call in Hebrew sechel, but that happens with our bodies and our spirits. So I wanted to relate to that difference because I think that one of the things that we need to be courageous to do is to not talk only about the wonderful teachings that all religions share, but also the challenges in terms of the differences we have. So the text that I choose to teach and share with you is from the Psalms. I thought that this would also be something that more people might be connected to or know the sources. So in Psalm number 85, in Hebrew, we would read Chesed ve'emet nifgashu, tzedek ve'shalom nashku. Now, there are different English translations to these sentences and to these psalms, and this is where I want to pay attention and share some of my thoughts with you this afternoon. Some of the English translations will translate chesed to love, and other translations will talk about mercy. So Psalm 85 would be love and truth will meet, justice and peace will kiss, truth will spring from the earth, justice will look down from heaven. It is very interesting to pay attention to the difference between love and mercy. The actual word in Hebrew is mercy and not love. Love is like a Christian translation of the psalm that is not what, like the original Hebrew, but it translates a concept of mercy and love. So it happens to be that when the sages, the rabbis of the time after the Second Temple was destroyed in Jerusalem, they will discuss what is this meeting between these different, I'm using the word, love, mercy, truth, and justice. What happens when they meet? What would happen if they would be like characters in a story? What would they do? What would they be saying? So the rabbis say, and that's what we read in Genesis Rabbah 8.5, Rabbi Shimon said, when the Holy One, blessed be He, came to create Adam, the first human, the ministering angels formed themselves into groups and parties, some of them saying, let him be created, others urged, let him not be created. So the angels are saying, God, maybe don't create this creature that you're about to create. Thus it is written, love and truth fought together. Righteousness and peace combated each other. Love said, let him be created, because he will dispense acts of love. And here acts of love is acts of mercy. Truth said, let him be created, because it's compounded of let him not be created, because he's compounded of falsehood. Righteousness said, let him be created, because he will perform righteous deeds. Peace said, let him not be created, because he's full of strife. What did the Lord do? He took truth. Now truth, emet, the truth is an attribute of God. Only God has the one and eternal truth. So he took truth and cast it to the ground, set the ministering angels before the Holy One, blessed be he, sovereign of the universe. Why do you desire your seal, your attribute? Truth is the seal of God. Let truth arise from the earth, hence it's written, let truth spring from the earth. So we're seeing these four attributes playing around and talking about whether human beings have to be created or not. Our challenges are challenges that are connected to attributes of the Eternal One, of the Eternal God. What we learn in Jewish tradition is that the attributes of God are the ones that we need to bring onto ourselves and in many ways act as God acted. Now, one of the challenges is that there are terrible things happening in the world. And sometimes we ask ourselves, why would God allow things to happen? Or things that happen like stories from the Bible, what we know and hear. So why was the whole earth not destroyed? But there was this big storm that covered the whole earth and things were started again. Or in terms of Jewish tradition, why were the Jewish people 400 years slaves in Egypt and they had to leave and take their freedom? And in that sense, what we are called to do is to, unfortunately, accept that we have both the power of being good, merciful, loving, and just people, but we also have the power of destroying and being harmful. We do live with those different parts of our own selves. And the thing that we must do is to find a way to be better human beings. As was said before, the better Jew you are, the better human being you are. If you are a good Christian, then you are a good human being, and the same in Islam, and the same in Hinduism. And sometimes we are actually so worried about who we are ourselves that we're not looking around for these acts of love and mercy that other people from different cultures and different traditions have. The text that I will not read because it's long and my time is not all the time that I plan, it was written, I invite you to read it, it's an interesting piece, it's from John Paul Lederer. He was one of the people trying to find reconciliation in Nicaragua in times where there was war between the people of Nicaragua. And he goes back to this psalm. That's why I brought it for you. When he was there, the Spanish translation of the psalm was not love, was mercy. And he was very much surprised. He was surprised of what was this thing that was going on. And actually, as someone who comes from academia and he thought that he knew all these models of how to work with people and how to work in situations of conflict, he learned from the faith of the Catholic sisters and brothers that were working with the people that it was actually all about reconciliation. It was about accepting that each and every one of us has different voices and different parts of ourselves. And sometimes we actually contradict ourselves. Now, I'm not trying to say you all have some kind of, and myself of course, of identity problem. I'm not talking about us walking around thinking that we're three different people. But sometimes we, for example, as parents, we want to set boundaries, but we see our child crying and we want to hug them. and we don't know what the correct action is at that point. How do we negotiate with the different attributes that we have? Coming from a place where, without getting into too many details of the politics of the fact, but coming from a place that is called Yerushalayim, Ir Shalom, the city of peace, I always ask myself, what is not working there? And one of the things that I believe we need to pay attention to is this reconciliation. First of all, among our own traditions. And second, how do we do this with someone else? Because I come from this place of modern Hebrew, I would like to end my remarks sharing with you a thought that has to do with which is the attribute that cannot work without the other. And I think, since I've heard these wonderful remarks about peace and love and mindfulness and awareness of who we are, I wanted to bring one more idea, which is part of the topic that we were asked to talk about, and it's justice. There is no peace without justice. There is no love without justice. There is no mercy without justice. Because if we don't see each other as partners in creating a better world from where we come, but all of us partners of the same energy, then we will not find a way. And a wonderful Israeli poet wrote, "Everyone talks about peace. No one talks about justice. What's one man's heaven, another man's hell? How many fingers are on the trigger? How long will the storm rage? How long a person live like a dog? The face slides on the razor's edge. The fingers carries the sword. Sometimes life brings to my knees. No one's guarding the gates. There are no signs from above. I see people living out dreams and hope. I see people living out nothing but tricks and schemes. Some people ask questions that have no answers. Others are just full of nothing, but complaints and demands. Everyone talks about peace, so we remain alone, talking to the wall. There's no one to talk. If we realize that we are the one, we'd see how it's all connected. When your property burns, your soul will burn. If you don't rush to save yourself, we murder the lamb and we murder the soul. We've got almost no air left to breathe her, and the world is in constant motion. It spins and returns to the same spot. What goes up must come down. How can we take things in moderation? Everyone talks about peace, and there are people who try to take ownership over God, and there are those who struggle and kick and scratch. How many of us are really listening? Everyone's talking about peace. Talking about peace. Everyone has the same dream on a mountain, in a valley. We keep on talking and talking about peace, but peace is not possible without justice. May God bless us all.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Tamara, for sharing with us some of the teachings of your reformed of your community. And yes, certainly, as you have been taught, there can be no real justice without peace in love. Thank you so much. And now we call upon the next speaker, will be the Buddhism representative, and we would like to call upon Mrs. Lopez.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. Sorry, Denanda, I think I got the big topic. I was asked to speak about the founder of Buddhism, Siddhartha Gautama, known as the Buddha. First, I'm an itinerant Buddhist. I'm a member of SGI, Soka Gakkai International. Soka Gakkai means Value Creation Society. So the founder of Soka Gakkai was a Japanese Buddhist monk who looked at the teachings of the Buddha that was available at that time in Japan, talking about the 13th century Japan. And he was looking at the teachings from the different temples to establish the true teaching of the Buddha. So we see ourselves as in this line of teachings. So the Buddha's story starts in the north of India, sometime in the 4th and 5th centuries before the Common Era. Scholars are not all agreed about the exact time, but they're fairly sure about that particular century, the 4th and 5th century. His family name was Gautama, and he was a member of the Shakya clan. So he's also known as Shakyamuni, the sage of the Shakyas. He was a very extraordinary, sensitive youth. He would walk around the palace in deep thought about life. At his birth, his father consulted soothsayers who gave the prediction that Buddha, or back then known as Prince Siddhartha, would either become a very great king or a great sage. Now the father, being a king, obviously wanted his son to become a great king. And that would be quite obvious. Every parent would like his child or children to follow in his or her footsteps. So his father sheltered him from the outside life. And I always think about this point because he tried, as his father, to keep him busy with activities and entertainment. So isn't that what we also do? You know, we keep our kids busy with their sports, with their entertainment. I love sports and entertainment, nothing wrong with that there. But keeping them from the essential things in life, looking deeper into the philosophical, into the spiritual matters. That didn't work. As any young person, you move away from your parents, you try to, your world expands. So the Buddha started to look outside of the gates of the palace. And it is told that at the eastern gate, he saw a very old man. And at the southern gate of the palace, he saw a sick man. At the western gate, he saw a dead person's corpse. And at the northern gate, he saw an ascetic, somebody seeking the spiritual way. And the Buddha came to the conclusion that no matter how young or healthy we may be, old age, sickness, and death will inevitably overtake us. With that understanding, he set out of the palace. Now, I was on an online discussion a week or so ago, and then somebody raised the question, okay, so, because the Buddha at that time was married and he had a child. So somebody raised the question, did he abandon his family there, which is a very good question, which Buddhists, of course, need to have an answer for. We do know that his child and his wife eventually followed him on the Buddhist way. So the Buddha set out of the palace, and he found his first teacher, who taught him a form of yogic meditation, which created a state of emptiness, where he's free from all worldly attachments. The Buddha soon mastered the teaching, and he realized that his teacher couldn't teach him anything more, but still his main questions about life weren't answered. He found a second teacher who taught him another form of meditation. In this, he reached the stage of no mental activity. There was no thought or there was neither thought or no thought. That too didn't bring him to what he was looking for. Then he set out to do ascetic practices. And they said that the Buddha couldn't be rivaled by anybody in austerities. He took long fasts. He lied on beds of thorns. He slept in cemeteries. But after a while he realized that even that couldn't give him the answers to life. He realized that this practice of austerities only bring pain and suffering, and that it was a low and valueless form of practice. So he abandoned that path. The story goes that he went to the river because he was in quite a state at that time. He washed himself and refreshed. He set out looking for the way. He met a young woman who offered him some rice gruel to eat, and that gave him new life after the long fast. He decided to sit down, or he found a pipe tree and he sat down under it, and he said to himself that he will not leave this place before he found what he was looking for. It is said that the Buddha was tempted by demons while sitting cross-legged in meditation. But he talked to them and he said, "You may defeat a coward, but the brave will triumph. Rather than living in defeat, I would rather die fighting." So after a while, the demons realized they're not going to budge this person from his position. He was very firm sitting there. During his meditation, images of previous lives appeared. That's the Buddha's previous lives. He had memories of countless existences before his present life. He also recalled the formation, creation of the universe, and also the destruction of the universe. Countless times, not just once. He also unlocked a state of being that was akin to an unhindered view in all directions. So he could see in all directions, in all dimensions throughout the universe. And he realized some beings are born in misery and some in fortunate circumstances. So he saw their lives endlessly into the past in all directions. And he realized that the bad karma or the bad conditions are the result of evil deeds in some of those past lives. And also the slandering of practitioners of the law. That is a point that even as a Buddhist myself, it took me a while to quite get that. What it really means is if one obstructs, people will do good. So in Buddhism, that is regarded as quite, if I can use a term from another religion, a sin. It's actually a very serious bad deed to obstruct whoever else is doing good, who's following the way. And also, as the word says, to slander the practitioners of the law, to say bad things about them. Good karma are the result of good deeds. In fact, the historical Buddha Sakyamuni became the Buddha in that particular life because in previous lives he did many good deeds. He was a bodhisattva in all of his previous lives, and that brought him to that point to come to the realization to become a Buddha. So what do we mean when we say somebody is a Buddha? A Buddha is a title. Although when we say the Buddha, we refer to Shakyamuni, Siddhartha, Gautama. But anybody can become a Buddha when you realize your Buddha nature. And the Buddha nature is in everything. Humans, animals, plants, animals, even substances or beings that we haven't met or encountered yet. The Buddha nature is in all of them. At dawn, the Buddha reached enlightenment. So all these things happened prior to reaching enlightenment. Then he turned his attention to the karma of all living beings. He saw that the infinite universe were one. And he also realized that he could now act freely based on the laws of life. The entire universe is subject to the same constant rhythm of creation and change. This applies to human beings equally. Nothing knows even a moment of stillness or rest. All phenomena in the universe emerge and pass into extinction through the influence of some external cause. Nothing exists in isolation. All things are linked together over space and time, originating in response to shared causal relationships, a law of life that permeates the whole process. So this connectedness of everything is actually the way for us to do better things or to do good, and actually the rationale for doing good. Yeah. So why do we look at, or why do we protect the environment? Because without it, we cannot exist. Why do we take care of each other? In a country like ourselves, we always hear the word South Africa is a very diverse society, which it is. But for us all to live in peace, and to be happy, and to be prosperous, we need to realize that all of us are part of this ecology, which is this country. And we cannot actually move a step forward without the other one. The Buddha also realized that he could develop limitlessly through this law. So, the awakening or the enlightenment of the Buddha wasn't just a once-off event, because the Buddha continued to practice meditation. It wasn't just he's now enlightened, so everything stops now. It continues. So this, even in future lives, we will continue to and as we as Buddhists believe, the Buddha still teaches and still finding ways to teach people even today. The Buddha set out, so Buddhism starts when he found the ascetics he worked with before, when he was going through that stage of his life. At first, they didn't want to know him, because in a sense, he was a bad ascetic, because he left that practice. But when they saw him, when they saw his countenance, they realized, no, he's a changed man. So they came forward and they wanted to listen. So that group of people, that's the first group of Buddhists, if you like. Also, the Buddha suffered major persecutions. Sometimes people have this impression that if you're a sage or a saint or a holy person, you get miraculous powers, which you may, and you float on air, and you have all, it's a bit like the comic Superman. But in fact, the Buddha was a human being, and he was attacked physically, and he bled, he felt the pain of those attacks. So, in our understanding of Buddhism, each one of us can reach enlightenment in this lifetime, regardless of our form. In literal Buddhism, we chant, and the chant basically says, I devote my life to the mystic law of the Lotus Sutra. And in classic Chinese, it goes something like this.
Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Sokrates. The award of the Business Award. Thank you for sharing with us the teachings, all the teachings of your, or the founder of your religious community. Thank you so much. I would like now to call upon Sister Hughes. Please. She will address us on St. Francis of Assisi. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to share a story with you. And this is going to be story time. And it did happen a long, long time ago. It happened 800 years ago. When a very historic, but very little known meeting between a Muslim leader and a Christian leader took place. And it's one that I think brings a strong voice in the struggle for racial harmony and reconciliation today. It is the story of St. Francis of Assisi and the Sultan of Egypt, Malik al-Kamil. Sultan al-Kamil. That meeting tells us about an embrace that took place between those two men, and they decided that there was a better way to living than the way of resentment, the way of warfare, the way of suspicion, the way of hatred, the way of fear. So through that meeting, they opened a door to respect, to trust, and to peace. So I think this important engagement speaks a strong message of truth to power today. And we must realize, I think, the significance today, and let the significance of that meeting really guide us in our engagements. So I think to better understand the significance of that meeting, we need to look at why it can speak truth to power today. And we need to look at the historical context under which it took place. And we need to look at both men's lives, of St. Francis' attitude to war and to peace, which were shaped by his own traumatic experiences as a soldier, and at the Sultan al-Kamil's experience in dealing with the Christians in Egypt, where the Coptic Christians regarded him as the most tolerant of Egypt's sultans. They were both men, both of them were seeking reconciliation and peace. St. Francis of Assisi was a peacemaker and a social justice activist who lived a life of evangelical poverty, humility, and peacemaking during the most violent years of the Middle Ages. He was a very humble person who transformed his world, and he renewed the Catholic Church by simply but revolutionary acts of practicing his faith as it was never practiced before. St. Francis was a man of peace. He was known for building bridges of communication, understanding, and cooperation between warring peoples, groups, and nations. St. Francis lived in the political turmoil of the 13th century Holy Roman Empire. That's a very not so holy, but I mean, that's what it was called. It was locked in a culture of war, fought both within the empire, as city fought city, and without, as the empire united in a series of crusades against the Muslims, against the Jews, and against all others who were labeled as heretics. But in that time also Christians viewed the Crusades as holy, which was a complete reversal of the original 300 years of Christianity, because the disciples of Jesus were practiced in the first 300 years. Their participation said that, and they killed absolutely nobody and nothing. But Francis himself, having been a soldier, involved in bloody warfare and conflicts during his young years, before his conversion to being a peace activist and a follower of the gospel, he was no stranger to the cruelties of men of war. Now we come to Sultan Ali-Kamil. The Western world had a very skewed image of the Sultan, because it was an image put forward by the Crusaders and the whole crusade propaganda. And it was also showed their lack of understanding of the basic knowledge of the Muslim society and of the Muslim faith. In Egypt, Sultan Al-Kamil was known for his tolerance towards the Christian minority. He was a cultured man who loved learned conversations with scholars in his court. He preferred to negotiate with his enemies rather than to engage in combat. He was the fourth Ayyubid Sultan of Egypt to rule for 40 years as viceroy and then as sultan. He was a statesman and a leader who used the teachings of his faith on how to engage in warfare and understood the value of human life. There is a verse in the Quran that explains how a person killed unjustly is as if a whole people were killed unjustly. But a life saved is as if all mankind is saved. Now, Sultan Al-Kamil was rooted in this spiritual belief of peace and compassion, eventually leading him to broker a peace with the Crusaders by ceding Jerusalem to the Christians in an attempt to save the lives of the people of the city. St. Francis himself began his prophetic resistance to the violence of the Crusades by first meeting with his own religious leaders, by meeting with the Pope and with the Christian commanders to stop the fighting, but they all refused. So St. Francis himself, he decided to embark on dangerous journeys 3 times, but he was prevented each time from getting to Egypt. He wanted to get to Egypt, and he refused. He never refused. He never carried arms. He never refused to actually go on the crusades because he was asked to do so by the Pope, but he refused to carry arms. He never carried arms on any of the crusades. His goal was always to get to Egypt and to visit the Sultan Al-Kamil and to deliver a message of peace to him. And he wanted always to embrace the Muslims. Instead of fighting the Muslims in the Crusades, he wanted to embrace the Muslims. And so the moment finally arrived during the summer of 1219, in the midst of the Crusades that were killing thousands of people along the sweltering banks of the Nile. At that time, the Muslims still controlled Jerusalem, but to reach there, the Crusaders decided they were first to capture the fortress of the Muslims in Damietta in Egypt and to gain control of the Nile. St. Francis decided he was going to actually cross this barrier. But the leaders warned him that if he crossed this barrier between the 2 armies, the Christian army and the Muslim army, that he would be tortured and he would be actually treated as a spy. And he also was a little bit suspicious and wondered, maybe, but he decided, no, God is really telling him this is what he must do, and he was going to take the risk. And so himself and his companion, a friar called Illuminato, crossed the treacherous battlefield and set foot on the outskirts of the camp, in the Muslim camp. They were seized, but they kept shouting, Sultan, Sultan, Sultan. And so the Muslim commander took these two barefoot monks with their torn habits and barefoot, and took them and to actually meet with the Sultan at Mil. So what happened next? In the meeting with the Sultan, St. Francis and the Sultan, we don't really know what happened between the two, because the meeting was in private. We're not sure that the Sultan would understand St. Francis is Italian, and St. Francis certainly did not speak Arabic. So what happened and how they communicated is, people imagine what happened, but we really don't know. What we do know is that that encounter was a transformative encounter, and that the way that they actually came together and their attitudes towards each other, their attitudes of mutual respect and understanding, and of their belief in the one God, of prayer, of charity, of peace, that certainly appealed to both of these people, and that they somehow found a way of coming together without language. See, language isn't always necessary. Attitude is often more important than language. So St. Francis's message of peace, that he was coming as a messenger of peace, actually surprised the Sultan, because the Sultan had not experienced much peace from the Christian community during that time. The Crusades were a horrible experience for everybody during the Middle Ages. So St. Francis made it clear that he was not there on behalf of the Crusaders, on behalf of the Pope, but he was an ambassador of peace from God. And this is what he communicated somehow to the Sultan, and the Sultan understood this message. And they communicated that message somehow, how we're not sure. But what we know is that the Sultan al-Kamil saw in Francis's enthusiasm and his courage, and he listened to him willingly, and he pressed him to stay. St. Francis stayed with the Sultan for quite a while. And he saw in Francis this desire to share a message of peace, and his spirituality of peace, without insulting Islam, without refuting Muhammad. He was there as an ambassador of God. So they discovered that they held a number of things in common. Their belief in the one true God, the centrality of God's will in their lives, charity for the poor, and a desire for peace. And they dialogued. Somehow they dialogued around these four principles, which they both accepted, and certainly was very much part of the Sultan's life. And they began to actually discover each other, and to discover that what they had in common far outweighed what their differences actually were. So there was a tremendous appreciation of each other. These two men began to appreciate each other. And the Sultan invited St. Francis to a banquet with him. So the image we have of St. Francis peacefully breaking bread at a banquet with Sultan al-Kamil indicates the appreciation that they had for each other and the respect that they had for each other's differences. What we don't know for sure, is that St. Francis was dramatically changed by this experience. And he came away deeply impressed with Islamic spirituality. And upon his return to Italy, he encouraged his brothers and sisters of the Franciscan order, of which I am one, happy to say, and he encouraged us to live peacefully among Muslims, even during the Fifth Crusade, which was a terrible crusade, bloody crusade. And so he actually, in his writings and in his admonitions to us as Franciscans, and his yearning for peace, he said that we must live among the Islamic communities and be actually subject to the Muslims rather than engage in any kind of dispute and in any kind of war. And this is something that he wrote into our conduct for our Franciscan order. So we have that in and we try to live by that, I hope. So when St. Francis was leaving for Italy, the Sultan wanted to give him lots of gifts, beautiful gifts, but Francis was a poor man and he decided that he would not accept any of these gifts except a horn, an ivory horn, which was used by the Muslims, is that how you call it? To call the faithful to prayer. And so he used this as a way of calling the brothers and the sisters to prayer also. And he was also impressed by the whole spirituality of Islam and the times of prayer, coming together 5 times a day for prayer. And he introduced that, and we now come together at 5 times a day for prayer in our communities. So I think this meeting has a lot to teach us today about compassion and understanding and how we accept one another and embrace our differences. They engaged in active listening with their hearts, which enabled them to speak through compassion or loving speech, and not of anger, frustration, or fear. So really listening and hearing without judgment is the gift I think that we can give to each other today, and which will enhance all of our lives. I think it's happening. This is happening in many places today. There are many engagements similar to the engagement of St. Francis and Sultan Ali Khamil happening today. And I think I can say that the Ahmadiyya is one of those ways I think that is replicating that encounter in the way that we come together here, and in so many ways that you are engaging in bringing people of diverse religions together. So I would like to thank you for that, for replicating that encounter. But there are many other groups. There's a Christian Muslim consultative group. There's Abrahamic Faiths Peacemaking Initiative. There's interfaith communities. There's Communities United for Justice and Peace. These all exist today, building bridges between religious communities to find common threads between all the different faiths. So the journey towards peace and understanding is open to all of us. Sometimes it takes one humble person in tattered robes and bare feet to make that trip and change the world. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sister Amy, for the beautiful and interesting story between the Sultan of Egypt and St. Francis of Italy. You're just proving again that even though there's a language barrier, but if the attitude is correct, then people can come together through peace and love. Thank you so much for that story. Thank you. 5 minutes for any comment or question? Please. All the two, the three.
Can I just ask a question? When St. Francis of Assisi did that, he was under the Pope at that stage. So when he went there and came back, was he excommunicated? Was there a problem with relationships with the Vatican?
Interestingly enough, not. It was not excommunicated. In fact, the Franciscan congregation has gone on to probably be one of the largest congregations in the world today. And we're still under the Pope.
But that particular Pope didn't listen to him.
No, he didn't listen to him, no, fortunately.
If I may just ask a question, I couldn't clearly hear what you were saying. What is the proper name of the Sultan, please?
Sultan Al-Kamil.
Ali?
Al-Kamil.
Al-Kamil.
Malik Al-Kamil.
Malik Al-Kamil. Al-Kamil, okay, Malik Al-Kamil. Thank you so much.
Yes, please.
Please.
Hi, I'm involved with a few of the programs for youth in the communities to try and do what you are doing, which is a wonderful thing, bringing people together across the diverse religions. Obviously our youth in the townships especially need to be exposed to various religions. So my question is, especially for the speakers, is that if you have any way that we can get the holy books of the different religions, the holy books in the English language, so that we could share this with them in the communities too.
There's a request from the gentleman here with especially for our children within the townships, whether we can make available to them simple books on the various religions.
The actual holy book.
The actual holy book, like the Bible and the Holy Quran and so on. Okay. So that is a request from the gentleman over here.
Can I just say that actually youth, young people like visual things, so there is actually a two-part documentary actually called The Sultan and the Saint, a model for peacemaking, which is available on DVD. And it's got very good reviews actually. So that might be something that we were to show to young people as a model of engagement economy.
Maybe can we get our contact details from this?
Yes, please.
We have to contact us directly, we can...
Then we can discuss it. So after the gathering, we can speak, give all the contact numbers. Okay, thank you so much.
You can share your contact details as well for the refreshment.
One more question, one comment. A short one. If not, then we will continue. And we'd like to call upon the representatives of the Baha'i community, and this will be a joint presentation. No? Not anymore. Okay, Mr. Samir said not anymore, so we will only have Sister Tarane Nan to address us, please. I have pronounced your name correctly.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Greetings, everybody. And I would like to thank the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat. Thank you so much for speaking and for inviting the Baha'is to join in. As I've been listening to various accounts of people's religions and organizations, I can't help but be struck by how similar we are in many ways. Love, peace, and justice has been the essence of all the great religions of the world. And it's essential for the establishment of unity and harmony. These qualities have been their focus, and it has developed throughout the ages. And if I may just ask you to consider evolution in many regards has been a very successful scientific theory in our time. I think as far back as in the 19th century, it entered popular discourse. And as a result, we understand that life on earth has evolved. Our physical bodies have evolved, our cultures have evolved, and so have our civilizations. Baha'is believe that God's guidance to humanity has also evolved, according to the adjacencies of the specific time that each messenger of God came to this world. As a result, our human consciousness is also continually evolving. Baha'is believe that God has made a covenant with man, not to leave him alone, but to educate him. And each messenger is likened unto a ray of truth from our Creator. Each has a very specific purpose, according to the needs of the time that they came to earth, giving rise to divine revelation, religions as we know them today. Each one of the messengers has many beautiful titles, and if I could just share some of them with you today. Abraham was known as the Exalted Father. Krishna, one who is limitless and endless. The Buddha, the Enlightened One. Zoroaster was the great lawgiver. Moses was the converser with God, the man of God, our teacher. Jesus Christ was the Son of God, the Messiah, the Spirit of God, the way, the truth, and the life. Muhammad was known as one who calls unto God, the light-giving lamp, the seal of the prophets. The Bab was known as the primal point, the herald, and the gate. Baha'u'llah, who declared his mission in 1863, was known as the Blessed Beauty, the ancient name, the glory of God, marking the era of fulfillment. All of these messengers have brought spiritual messages of love, peace, and justice. As Baha'is, we believe that they have all come from the same heavenly source, and therefore we are all the children of the same God, who is constantly reminding us how to love, how to be at peace, and how to be just. The laws and guidances of God are not impositions of will or of power or pleasure, but they are signs of love, peace, and the resolution of truth, reason, and justice. The spiritual teachings are all the same. We all share the same Father. The teachings are very specific for the time that they have come. Humanity is founded on universal divine love. Unlike a material love, it is eternal and precious. As we evolve individually, so we will evolve collectively as an entity. The peoples of the world belong to one single human race, a common global homeland. Our diversity, our uniqueness, illuminates the beauty of our neighbour. Abdul-Baha, who was the son of Baha'u'llah and appointed as the interpreter of his words, reminds us, in reality, all are members of one human family, children of one heavenly Father. Humanity may be likened unto the vari-coloured flowers of one garden. There is unity in our diversity. Each sets off and enhances the other's beauty. Love is the most great law that rules the world. It is a unique power that binds together the diverse elements of this material world, the supreme magnet that directs movement in the celestial realms. Love is what will guide us towards peace. The great peace towards which people of goodwill throughout the centuries have inclined their hearts, of which seers and poets for countless generations have expressed their vision, and from which from age to age the sacred scriptures of mankind have constantly held the promise, is now at long last within the reach of the nations. For the very first time in history, it is possible for everyone to view the entire planet with its myriad of diversified peoples in one perspective. World peace is not only possible, but inevitable. It is the next stage in the evolution of this planet. In the words of our great thinker, it is the planetization of mankind that we are working towards. Yet, there is a paralyzing contradiction, and it has developed in human affairs. On the one hand, people of all nations proclaim not only their readiness, but their longing for peace and harmony, for an end to the harrowing oppressions tormenting our lives. On the other hand, there's an uncritical assent given to the proposition that human beings are incorrigibly selfish and aggressive, and thus incapable of erecting a social system that is progressive and peaceful, dynamic and harmonious. A system that gives free play to individual creativity and initiative, but is based on cooperation and reciprocity. As the need for peace becomes more urgent, this fundamental contradiction, which hinders its realization, demands a reassessment of the assumptions that we are making, upon which commonly held views of mankind's historical predicament is based. Dispassionately examined, the evidence reveals that such conduct, far from expressing man's true self, represents a distortion of the human spirit. Satisfaction on this point will enable all people to set in motion constructive forces, social forces, which, because they are consistent with human nature, will encourage harmony and cooperation instead of war and conflict in a just world. The purpose of justice is the appearance of unity among men. Justice is the light of men. It is not limited, it is a universal quality. Its operation must be carried out in all classes, from the highest to the lowest. Justice must be sacred, and the rights of all men must be considered. All the messengers of God teach us to desire for each other what we desire for ourselves. And in fact, Baha'u'llah goes on to say, to prefer your brother to yourself. When perfect justice reigns in every country of the Eastern and Western world, then this earth will be the most beautiful place for us all. When the dignity and equality of every servant of God will be acknowledged, the ideal of the solidarity of the human race, the true brotherhood of man will be realized, and the glorious light of the Sun of Truth will illumine the souls of all men. So, independently, man must investigate reality. Adherence to vain imagination obscures the light of truth, and it is the cause of injustices and suffering we witness today. The reality proclaimed in all the heavenly books and divine teachings is that of love, peace, and justice. The great being said, the heaven of divine wisdom is illumined with the two luminaries of consultation and compassion. Take ye counsel together in all matters, inasmuch as consultation is the lamp of guidance, which leadeth the way, and is the bestower of understanding. Love, peace, and justice are the guiding spirit, the light that has been conveyed through all the manifestations of God throughout the ages, guiding us towards the establishment of peace on earth for us all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sister Tone. Thank you so much. We now come to our next speech. Please forgive me, I apologize, Mr. Young, I'm saying. I jumped you in, I should have been before. But we call upon you now to just on to some.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious and most merciful. Mr. Chairman, National President Sahib, respected guests, ladies and gentlemen, to Islamic greeting of Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace, blessing, and mercy of God be upon all of you. Before I get into my formal presentation, permit me to recite you a verse from the Holy Quran. يا أيها الناس قد جاءتكم موعظة من ربكم وشفاء لما في الصدور وهدى ورحمة للمؤمنين. In this verse, God, in the verse of the Holy Quran, chapter 10, verse 58, God addresses mankind, not the Muslims, but here He addresses mankind in general. He's got various addresses in the Holy Quran. In this verse He says, O mankind, there is indeed come to you an exhortation from your Lord, and a cure for whatever disease there is in the hearts, and for the believers a guidance and a mercy. The world today abounds with sufferings of all sorts. The state of the world unfolds in front of our very eyes in images of destruction, death, poverty, hunger, and homelessness. Then there are so many who, although are not outwardly and directly affected in this manner, suffer from inner stresses which leave them and leave their hearts troubled and unsettled. At times, it is the people who suffer from these inner troubles of the heart that are worse off than those who suffer outwardly. It is to all these, humanity at large, whether they are Muslims or not, that God, as He has always done, has turned to us with mercy and offered a cure for whatever disease or ailment there may be in our hearts. Would that people but only cry this cure. Now, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, my address today will be largely based on an address that was delivered at a meeting in Denmark a few years ago by our Supreme Head. You see his photograph over there, the likeness of him there, Hazrat Mirza Masud Ahmad, and God strengthened his hand. Some few years ago, after there was this great debacle that appeared in the press in Denmark, where there was this newspaper or this publication that took it upon themselves to publish a cartoon, a caricature of our Prophet in a demeaning and humiliating way. And you know, when things like this happen in the Muslim world, it's not normally met with, it's not welcome really. Those of us who remember in the 80s when Salman Rushdie published a book called The Satanic Verses, and it wasn't long before there was a death threat and a fatwa was issued for his death, and then he went into hiding. So in Denmark a few years ago that happened, and there was turmoil. What happened afterwards in Europe, there was this backlash, the way the Muslim people, the Muslim community, some of them responded in such a violent way and in such an intolerant way. And my address, which will speak about the topics of today, which will cover it, is where His Holiness our Khalifa spoke to some ministers, spoke to senior people in the government, because they could see they had allowed and permitted it in one way, but they had dealt with it in an insensitive way. And he was asked to address him, what does Islam say about this position? What does Islam teach about tolerance? How does it teach about when you are criticized? Because it is easy to express love and peace and justice when one is not tried, but when one is hurt. And we heard from the speakers before, how when they were faced with a hard situation, their leaders responded in the most beautiful way. And that's the one thing I see it's been common so far amongst many people, is that those who have that relationship with God respond in a way, not that pure justice would sometimes call upon. It would be just, formally just, that if you have been stabbed, that you should return the same. But is that the wisest and the best and most considered response? So I invite you to listen to what the Caliph at that time said to the Danish leadership who didn't know how to deal with it and how Islam deals with it. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community is a sect within Islam whose purpose and objectives are very clear. We seek to bring mankind towards its Creator, to God Almighty. We seek to draw the attention of all people towards their responsibilities to the fellow man and the need to treat one another with love, compassion and respect. And we desire and seek to establish true and long-lasting peace in the world. We Ahmadi Muslims believe the founder of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community to be the promised Messiah and Imam Mahdi, as was foretold by the Holy Quran and the Holy Prophet of Islam. Both the Holy Quran and the Holy Prophet prophesied certain signs that would testify to the truth of the promised Messiah. And we believe that they have all been fulfilled in support of the claim of the founder of our community. Some of the signs relate to the development of the world at the time of the Messiah and Mahdi. For example, it was foretold that he would be sent when modern technology and the means of communication had developed to such an extent that people in different parts of the world would be brought together, and at the time when the press and media would be established. Thus, having observed how the signs and the prophecies of the Quran and the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, were fulfilled in his favor, we Ahmadi Muslims believe our founder, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian, to be the promised Messiah and Imam Mahdi. We believe that he came as a beacon of truth to convey the truth and resplendent teachings of Islam to the entire world. He implored the people of the world to live together in peace and inculcated within his followers human sympathy and compassion. He once said, quote, "To love mankind and to show compassion to others is an immense form of worship of God and an outstanding means of attaining his pleasure. Therefore, according to our beliefs, Islam teaches that until a Muslim fulfills the rights of mankind, he or she cannot fulfill the rights owed to God. Indeed, on certain occasions, the rights owed to one's fellow human beings supersede and take priority even above and beyond the rights owed to God. In short, Islam stipulates that only when a person fulfills the rights of other people, irrespective of who they are or what they believe, can he or she be classed as a true Muslim." Following his demise in 1908, the promised Messiah was succeeded by the institution of Khilafat or Caliphate, whose purpose was and continues to be to advance the Messiah's mission of propagating Islam's true teachings to all parts of the world. And today we have our fifth Caliph, as you can see there. I shall now present some of Islam's true teachings and seek to clarify some common misconceptions about the religion. Islam counsels mankind to discard all forms of hatred, enmity and malice, and instead to unite under a banner of love and mutual respect. It advocates the establishment of peace and justice at all levels of society and between all people. Thus in chapter 5 verse 9 of the Holy Quran, God says, "O ye who believe, be steadfast in the cause of equity and justice, and let not the people's enmity incite you to act otherwise than with justice. Be always just, that is nearer to righteousness, and fear Allah. Surely Allah is aware of what you do." In this verse, Allah has commanded Muslims to treat all people, including even the enemies, with fairness and justice. Thus, Islam does not permit cruelty or wrongdoing under any circumstances. Without doubt, the Holy Prophet of Islam established the very highest standard of religious freedom and tolerance in the world. A prime example of this was the way in which the Holy Prophet treated and respected the Jewish community and other non-Muslims after his migration to Medina, following years of persecution in his hometown of Mecca. Most of the local people of Medina accepted Islam, and so they welcomed the Prophet and accepted him, not only as their religious leader, but they also elected him as the leader of the state. Nonetheless, there remained a significant Jewish community in Medina, and also of other non-Muslims. Thus, upon being chosen as the leader of the state, the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, established a covenant of peace with the Jews and the other groups, based upon the principles of universal religious freedom and tolerance. According to the covenant, the religious freedom of the Jews and the other non-Muslim communities were protected and guaranteed by the Holy Prophet of Islam. And this is in Islamic history is known as the Constitution of Medina, which is actually an excellent model for religious communities to live by today. The one compromise that we're making in a way that we can live together. We don't have to force one another. The fact that we're different in our beliefs is in no way a bar to us living together in peace. And that was practiced by him. History proves that the Holy Prophet never violated the terms of this treaty, and that under his rule, the religious rights and freedoms of non-Muslims were always upheld. This is a clear refutation to those who allege that Islam permits anti-Semitism or any form of religious discrimination. Another example of the magnificent moral character of the Holy Prophet was displayed when he was visited by a delegation of Christians from the city of Najran. Now, the Holy Prophet of Islam, by that time when he was in Medina, and he had stayed there in Mecca, he was persecuted for 10 plus years, and when he had made a city and had been, ruling a city in Medina, the message of Islam was being spread, and Christians also came to find out about the claim that he was making. And this is so much that can be said about this particular instance, this particular example. But the Holy Prophet invited this group of Christians for discussions, and these discussions went on for a few days. And it was cordial. It was an exchange of views, and at the end of the discussion, which had lasted for a few days, the Christian people wanted to perform their worship and needed to go somewhere. And there was no available place for them at the time. The Prophet said, actually, you're probably most welcome to use our mosque. Now, how can that then be in our modern day when we see Muslims not being so tolerant? The founder of Islam made it a point to invite people of other faiths into the church of worship. Can't we not do the same? Another charge that is often leveled at Islam is that it was spread violently by the sword. The word jihad, which has been explained to our regular visitors here, know by now, but those who are new, we commonly have to set this record straight that the word jihad means strive, and striving takes various forms. In no way does it mean that it gives you a license to fight in the name of God against somebody who's different in belief than you. It takes various forms. The most powerful form is the jihad against oneself, where you conquer your beastly animal nature and try and strive to maintain higher spiritual states. Not what people are doing. You will remember after the Denmark incident, not long after that, there was Charlie Hebdo in France, and there were other terrorist attacks as well, spurred on others. And the people who did those things said, no, we're doing this to please God. This is a jihad. And how misguided these people are. And this is part of what our community does to set straight. Those acts are not part of Islam in any way. But Islam is not a religion that should be feared, and if one gives it some consideration, one will be surprised what one will find in its teachings. This allegation is completely unfounded, and indeed nothing could be further from the truth. All of the wars, it's not that Islam did not fight wars, but all of the wars fought during the life of the Holy Prophet and the four rightly guided caliphs who succeeded him were entirely defensive in nature. Where war had been forced upon them, and even where war had been forced upon Muslims, they still sought to protect and respect the revered places of other religions and their respective figures. Yet sadly, in today's world, in a number of parts in the world, we see that the blessed character of the Holy Prophet has been grievously assassinated, and he is often portrayed as an imperialistic leader and belligerent warmonger. This unjust portrayal of the Holy Prophet of Islam defies history and defies the truth. The reality was that the Holy Prophet was forever enslaved by his determination to establish peace and the rights of humanity. Indeed, when God first gave the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, permission to wage a defensive war against the Meccans who were bent upon wiping him out, it was given this permission to fight in order to defend the institution of religion rather than merely to defend Islam alone. That is why in chapter 22, verse 40 to 41 of the Holy Quran, Allah proclaimed that if the aggressors would not stop, then they would not limit themselves to attacking the Muslims, but the ultimate aim was to destroy all forms of religion. Allah very clearly states that if the Meccans were not forcefully repelled, then no church, synagogue, temple, mosque, or the place of worship of any religion would remain safe. These verses make it categorically clear that when the Muslims were permitted to engage in the defensive war, it was granted in order to defend all religions and all beliefs, rather than for the sake of conquering lands or to spread cruelty. Now I understand my time is up and I think I should go this quickly, so I'm going to move on and summarize towards the end. So we see that there's a great disparity in what the true teachings of Islam are and what Muslims are actually and what we see in the world people practicing today, parading as Muslims. A modern person, or someone who converted to Islam, Cat Stevens, I don't know if they called Cat Stevens, the use of Islam, who was a singer. Famous Morning Is Broken, I don't know those songs that my uncle used to sing in Arabic, but now he became a Muslim, and he became a Muslim, he was a musician. And he became a Muslim after having studied Islam. And he's often quoted as saying, thank God I studied Islam before I actually met some of the Muslims. So this is what we do. We are getting a bad rap, we are portrayed as these people that are violent, and this is part of our mission to make people understand what the truth is, that it is definitely a possibility, as the lady from the Bible movement said there, as our evolution is continuing, we're going to have to go to a global level of peace. Perhaps we will reach that after a few more struggles. And this is the other part that was part of this address that was a warning to the world, which is that if we're going to continue in this manner of being intolerant and uncompromising, if we are not going to be able to see each other as human beings, then we're heading towards World War III. There's so many conflicts around the world right now. Religion is playing a part in it to some extent, and it can also play a part to diffuse it. And he's saying if we do not uphold the things that we're doing now, living in peace, being tolerant, and facing difficulty. And that is where we ended off by saying that if we wish to protect our children and future generations from the torment of war and its destructive consequences, then we must fulfill the rights of our Creator and the rights of one another. We must care for and respect each other regardless of any differences of caste, creed, or color. I end it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jazakallah, for your insights. And thank you for sharing with us those beautiful teachings. Before we proceed, Sister Nita has requested to me by 5:30 to respond to you. So we just call upon the cameraman, please.
for the purposes of
Thank you so much. We've also requested Sister Berry, Director of the Cape Town Interfaith Initiative, to say a few words and share a few teachings with us. Please.
Good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum. It's an honor and indeed a surprise to be standing up in front of you today. Thank you so much for the invitation to address you very briefly. The value of meetings like this is something that is so close to my heart as the chairperson of Cape Town Interfaith Initiative, but also as an ordinary citizen. Gandhi, the beautiful voice of wisdom that so many of us have learned from, one of the things he said is that friendly study of all the scriptures, is the sacred duty of every citizen. It's hard to study all the scriptures. It really is. So what a joy it is then to be able to come here and to listen to all of you and to learn so much from all of you. It's something that I wish there were so many more people who would do that, who would take the time to come and sit and listen to these wonderful expressions. You know, I want to tell you one of the things that I've realized recently. While I was in New York, a friend of mine, or a teacher of mine who is Jewish, suffered a loss of a family member. And as we do in Cape Town, I said, I wish you long life. And all of my Jewish friends in New York looked at me funny. They said, what do you mean? And I said, that's what you say when somebody dies and you want to express condolences, because that's what we do in Cape Town. And they said, it's not what we do here. So I thought, okay, there's a big learning for me. And what I realized is that our cultural ways are not always the same as our religious ways, but we don't always know the difference. And how would we know the difference unless we were sharing time and information with each other in venues like this? So we don't always even know what questions to ask. But I want to thank you particularly so much in speaking about the Islamic message, particularly because I was thinking about what Rabbi Tamara said about justice. And I was thinking about perhaps we should actually be speaking in our interfaith forums about what we mean when we say a word like justice. Because we might mean different things. So the picture in my head might be different than the picture in your head. There are people who say bring back the death penalty. And there are those of us who say you cannot have a death penalty if you have a compassionate world. So what do we mean by justice? We need perhaps to be speaking about those kind of subjects and finding our way through to a place of commonality. Some of you might know that while I was in New York, I received a new mantle, and that is that I'm now the South African coordinator for the Charter for Compassion. And the Charter for Compassion started off about 10 years ago when a group of scholars, of religious scholars, came together with a former nun, Karen Armstrong, and they talked about and really worked through where the meeting points of our different religions, our different sacred texts are. And the meeting point that they found was compassion as a value that really is a meeting place. So if the point of compassion can be a starting point, the platform that we all stand on together, that points us, gives us a place of commonality to take us to that place that we all want to go to, that we regard as peace. in our world. And you know, also we have to talk about the meaning of peace and how we actually take that picture to people who might never have experienced peace. And there are people right here in our city who have no idea what peace means. So I'm thinking, for instance, of a child who grows up in poverty in a township, who you have a piece of bread and he does not have a piece of bread. Of course he wants that piece of bread because for him, peace is actually going to be a full tummy. For him, he has not lived with peace ever because his family members might be immersed in violence because of the desperation of their situation. So this child cannot cross the road in safety, cannot sleep in safety, does not have something to eat. How are we going to explain to him that there is this thing called peace that we all want? So maybe these are some of the conversations we need to be having, but how else will we have them if we cannot come together and really listen to each other and learn from each other and with each other? And so friendship, I believe, and the kinds of friendships that we are building in our interfaith community, I do believe that friendship is our superpower. I believe that it is the thing that can save all of our religions. We heard about the safety, the issue of safety in the world today. In the past 8 months, we've had immense tragedies in various synagogues, mosques, and Christian churches throughout the world. Terrible incidents of mass killings, massacres. One of the things we learned in Cape Town after that is that when we come together in friendship, we've experienced not only a healing of our own personal divisions in our fragmented society, but we obviously connect with those across the world. So after the Muslims were murdered in Christchurch, we held an observance of compassion, and guess where we held it? We held it in Grootekerk, the Dutch Reformed Church in Cape Town. And it was profound. Not only did we really express a deep felt sense of empathy and condolence for these people that we regard as brothers and sisters, even though we've never met them, because they're part of humanity. But we felt this immense healing for ourselves as well. And then Sheikh Ismail Kiran from the Al-Azhar Mosque in District 6, after the Sri Lankans were killed in their churches on Easter Sunday, he reached out and he said, as a reciprocal gesture, I would like to invite everybody of all religions to come to my mosque on Sunday. We're going to have an observance of compassion for the Christians killed. And just in those few days between Easter Sunday and between that observance of compassion, there was San Diego, where a Jewish person was killed in a synagogue, an attack in San Diego. And so one of the leaders of the Jewish community came to that mosque and he lit a candle of condolence for San Diego, for the lady killed in that synagogue, and we lit a candle for the Christians killed in Sri Lanka. And again, we experienced this immense sense of unity, common purpose, compassion for all of life. And we learned that when we make friends with each other, we are safer, because friends watch each other's backs. Friends want the best for each other. They want to protect each other. And that's what we're doing here in these times where we come together and share both our joy and our questions and our experiences in our sacred places and in our sacred religions. And that is why I thank you, Marabi, so much for holding this peace symposium. I thank you all for participating and sharing so generously of your knowledge. And I know that we all go away better friends and we make the world safer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Marika. Share your thoughts on peace and love. Thank you very much. Do we have any comments or any questions, please?
we would like to call upon Sister Apostle Lorraine Mokong. You can come explain yourself, please, Sister Apostle Mokong. She would like to say a few words to the gathering. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I greet you all. Salam alaikum. And I will say, peace be upon you. Like Jesus Christ would have said, I am very much humbled by this opportunity, the president of Ahmadiyya Muslim community in South Africa. And everybody that is here, I'm not sure of the protocol that is here, but I know very well that in here everybody is a dignitary. So by so saying, I humble myself before each and every one of you. Thank you so much for allowing me just this few minutes to be able to congratulate you on the Founders Day. So many of us don't honor the founders. We just abide in a platform which has been formed by somebody. It is very much apparent and clear in terms of political spheres. Nobody really knows who started DA, nobody really knows who started EFF, nobody really knows who started ANC, nobody really knows who started the Democrats, who started the Republicans in America and so on. But then to come to a space where we can be sat down and literally go through a process of understanding who the founder is and what their mission was. For me, I've been journeying the Ahmadiyya Muslim community for the past 4 years, and I've learned for the first time that it's not only one Muslim community that exists. They are one, but then they are different communities in nature. And I started to go in a journey of finding out that who are these ones that which they are not so much broadcasted. And I figured the injustices that which exist in South Africa and across the world in terms of how we suppress each other. And that we are out of oppression and out of whatever that really oppressed us in the past. But until today, we still live in a time where there is certain communities that which we silence, such as this one. And for me to be invited here and be able to say congratulations and honor alongside with you, the founder of this particular community, is such a big thing. In reading about him and in following his story, I've learned that he is a man of peace. I carry in each day a key holder that says, love for all and hatred for none. And people ask me, where do you get that? And I say, it's actually a motto of one of the Muslim communities. And they say, but you are an apostle, you're a Christian. Why are you traveling with things of Muslims? And I say, there the problem is. And I start to narrate the story of this particular founder. That the prophet that founded the Ahmadiyya Muslim community is a missionary of note. A man who managed to be able to say, don't only allow the Muslim community to stay in only one area, but allow for them to teach the real core truths of what Muslims stand for. Not only where people are oppressing other people and making it look like the Muslim community is just one community that is there to oppress the others. And for me, I can proudly and humbly be able to say that at any time, this community can be able to call upon me. And I will come, because I know for certain there will not be extremists and say, but you are a Christian, you're not going to listen to any of the Christian nonsense. And I will not be able to come back and say the same, and say, I won't be able to listen to anything from the Quran. In actual fact, when you read from the Quran and when you read from the Bible, you'll find a lot of similarities, things that which can be able to shape each and every one of us to be better people, to be peaceful people, and to tolerate each other. We are so much full of unrest as people, and it would be so much helpful where we are able to have days like this in almost each and every community, be it Hindu, be it Muslim, be it Christianity, be it Buddhist, whatever, a religion is. I so say once again, thank you so much for this opportunity and congratulations for allowing people from other religions to come and join into this celebration. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sister Lorraine, for your wonderful 3 words. May God bless you.
Thank you so much. We were just negotiating with our last speaker, who is the mayor of Cape Town, Alderman Dan Craig. Looks like he's not reachable at this point in time. But let's continue. We will now have the presentation, and after that we will conclude our gathering for today. And at 6:20, we will do our evening prayers, and maybe best mention that we had something that comes to show while we are praying. Yeah. So our cameraman then maybe has said he will show to all those that will be joining us in prayers. You going to show here? On the wall, okay. So while we make our mother prayers at 6:20, we will screen something on the wall regarding what we are praying, so that everybody can benefit from what we are doing. Thank you so much, Minister. So we'll call upon the cameraman and we will. Are you leaving now? Thank you so much. Thank you. God bless and safe journey home. Let's just go for Rabbi Tamara. We thought prayers that the record also come later on, and between now and say for the next 10 to 15 minutes, we can open for questions, comments and directed to the speakers, please. Yes, sir.
Yes, the comment is actually something that we as an organizer of the event. I'm not this committee that runs this, and it relates to one of the objectives of why the religious founders that came about. And our second caliph in the late 20s, early 30s, that part of increasing love between religious communities is not only to invite them to a common platform so that they may speak of their own religious founder, but they should endeavor to try and get one religious community to speak about another religious community's founder and look at those good things that they can find. So just so that the committee can keep it in mind, and also that I can touch with an indication here from participants here of the other places, they are also so inclined to agree to such a thing. It's easy for me to speak about my beloved prophet, but how can I really speak well? Should to speak well about Moses or Buddha or even Jesus or and could you do the same? So that is something that food for thought for the next occasion.
Thank you so much for your notes. It's a very good suggestion on the table, so we can think about it and see all the speakers can let us know whether it's possible. I'm sure it is possible. Anyone else? Comments? Discussion? Questions?
I would like to ask a question to the Jewish lady. Can you give me your opinion?
Can you come to front? The ladies of the cannot hear you.
My question is direct to the lady of the Jewish faith from Argentina. I would like to know your opinion concerning Messiah. Are you still waiting for Messiah? What is your opinion concerning Jesus? Is he the Messiah that you are waiting for? Can you please enlighten us with that perspective?
Can you?
So, what I would, my short answer, would be that I belong to what we call in Judaism the progressive side of Judaism. So my answer is the answer of modern progressive Jews and not Orthodox Jews. The idea of, the way we see the idea of the Messiah is that there will be a messianic era, that there won't be one person that will come and change us all, but that we all have to change ourselves, and when we are all in that better situation, we will bring the messianic era, and then there will be a different world, and peace for all, and tolerance. So that's the progressive word of Judaism. But I would say that in Orthodox Judaism, we still talk about Mashiach ben David, the Messiah of the house of David. We do not relate to it as Jesus. We see Jesus as a teacher of our faith. We see Jesus as a Jew, and we see the continuation of his disciples in Christianity. But we don't have a name for our Messiah, and I very much relate to the idea that we all have to bring that better time for all of us and not hope that one person will bring it for us all. There is a song that we usually sing at the synagogue I belong to in Jerusalem, which says, I will translate in English, but we sing it in Arabic and in Hebrew, and it says that peace will come to us, and we have changed it, and we say we will bring peace to us. I think we need to be proactive in the search of a better world for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Kumara.
Any other question?
Any other question? Comment?
Question, suggestion, let's see. Like Rehan Sharma's suggestion. Anybody have any suggestion to do it better? Yes, please come in.
It's another question for the rabbi. I'm actually asking the question on behalf of somebody else I had a discussion with. Adam, I think you said in your talk that Adam was the first man. So what is the Jewish understanding of, was Adam a man like gender, male, or was he something else?
If I'm not mistaken, and I said what I meant to say, I said that Adam was the first human. That's the word that I use. There are two different stories in the Bible about the creation of human beings. One says that Adam, the man as male, was created, and from Adam's side, and usually we translate it as, what's the word of the... Yes, the woman was created. But there's also the other text that says that Adamah is earth in Hebrew. So what God created from the earth, female and male was it. It was the creation of the human being in all of its sides. So it depends on which chapter of Genesis you read, and I think it also depends on what interpretation we want to give in order to be more tolerant and more acceptable of the different human beings that we have in our world today. Should I stay? Any other questions?
Any other question for the rabbi? Comments or questions?
Since we have adjusted our agenda, and we had wonderful talks, very beautiful conversation, and also very good comments. We will conclude today's session with a silent prayer, and everybody is free to pray his own way. Why? Because God the Almighty knows all the languages. It's not only we use particular language. And God the Almighty has created them in a diverse way. So everybody has his own way to express his or her heart to the Creator. So in this way, we will have a silent prayer, and at the end we say Amen or Amen is the same. There is no difference. So I will say, let's start with silent prayer, then I will say Amen or Amen, so that will be concluded. It's just a few minutes, okay? Please join with me in the silent prayer.
you very much. We will have informal few minutes. In case if Honorable Mayor comes, we will receive him, we will listen to him. And in case, because he is also his person, in case if you don't come, you people will see how we pray. And meanwhile, something will be on the projector, which will also give you a message what we are doing. So we have about 15 minutes. Just have an informal. You can chat, you can talk to each other.